You know that feeling when you're just completely swamped with
Oh,
information?
absolutely, just drowning in it sometimes.
Right. And you're wishing there was like a shortcut, a way to really understand the complex stuff without getting totally bogged down.
Yeah, a way through the noise.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of why we're here. This is the deep dive.
And we're your guides, trying to cut through that noise.
Today, we're diving into something really fascinating. Lumpy data.
Mm-hmm. Sounds a bit quirky, doesn't it? Lumpy.
It does, but it's actually a really powerful idea. We're talking about anomalies, right? Those unexpected
That's
patterns.
exactly. The outliers, the bits that don't quite fit. And when you dig into them, well, that's where surprising insights can pop up.
Whether that's in tech or finance or even, as we'll see, maybe history.
Yeah, looking at historical narratives in a new way, these lumps can show up anywhere.
Okay, so get ready because this isn't going to be some dry lecture.
No way.
We're actually going to journey from like the early days of computer programming through the world of insurance, which sounds kind of random, I know.
Huh, yeah, seems like a jump.
But then we'll see how one source uses this whole lumpy data idea to look at history, potentially uncovering hidden layers, things that challenge what we think we know.
It connects in surprising ways this search for the lumps.
Okay, so let's unpack that phrase then. Lumpy data. Where does it even start? You mentioned programming.
Yeah, so the source material we look at, it talks about this period, maybe like 1983 to 99, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Programming talent was apparently super rare back then. You had these coders who were basically freelancers moving from job to job.
Right, itinerant coders.
Exactly. And a lot of their work, including this one person the source highlights, was about digitizing stuff people were already doing manually, taking human workflows and turning them into code.
And that's where it gets tricky, I bet.
Totally, because the source brings up this really interesting point about the art versus the science of a job, meaning people do things, little things, that are so ingrained, so automatic, they don't even think to tell you about them when you're asking how their job works.
Right. The stuff that's not in the manual. The tribal knowledge.
Precisely. You know, it makes you wonder how much isn't documented versus what's just known.
Yeah.
Like imagine trying to write code for a system and there's this punch machine operation.
Okay.
And it turns out you have to do it twice at the end of a sequence, not just once.
And that wasn't written down anywhere?
Nope, not in the manual. But the operator doing the job, they just knew. They'd say, cleared it for the next round or something.
That is a perfect example of a lump, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's undocumented, it's an anomaly compared to the written procedure, but it's crucial for how the thing actually works.
Not just how it works on paper. Those little quirks that mess up the neat theories.
Exactly. The invisible but essential bits.
Okay, that makes total sense in programming. How does this idea, these lumps, translate to something like insurance? You mentioned that earlier.
Right. So the source introduces this really interesting character, an actuary.
Okay, crunching the numbers.
Big time. He headed up the fraud division for an insurance company. And this guy apparently had this intense love-hate relationship with lumps.
Love, hey, how so?
You'd literally hear him say, I love lumps, just love them lumps.
Okay.
But then later, maybe in a different meeting, he'd be like, oh God, I hate lumpy data.
Huh. That's quite the swing. What was going on there? Why the different reactions?
Well, think about his job. When he was head of security and fraud,
Yeah.
he loved finding lumps because, as he apparently put it, they betrayed anomalies.
So the lumps pointed to problems.
Exactly. Often loopholes or sometimes outright fraud. Finding them saved the company potentially huge amounts of money.
Makes sense. Any examples?
The source gives a great one. 5 boat sinkings
Uh-huh.
in Wisconsin, all within about 3 months.
Okay. Odd, but maybe bad luck.
But here's the lump. There were no major weather events. No storms, nothing to explain it. So he'd look at a report, his eye catches this cluster, this lump, and he'd say, this should not be there.
Because it doesn't fit the normal pattern.
Precisely. Turned out 5 expensive boats all sank on just 2 specific lakes, very close together in time. That's not random chance. That's a massive, undeniable lump screaming fraud.
Yeah. For actuaries who look at decades, centuries of data sometimes, things just don't happen like that usually. That cluster is a huge signal.
It absolutely is. Investigate here.
Okay, so that's why he loved them in fraud detection. Why did he hate them when he was doing other work, like designing algorithms?
Right. Because when you're designing algorithms, say, for pricing insurance or predicting risk,
Yeah.
you want smooth, predictable data. You want A nice stream of steady data, as the source puts it.
You want the patterns to be regular.
Exactly. You want smooth curves you can model easily. Lumps, they mess everything up. They force you to question your assumptions, account for these weird
I guess it
outliers.
means more work, basically. Your neat algorithm breaks.
Totally. So these lumps, they're either your best friend if you're hunting for trouble or your worst nightmare if you're trying to build something predictable. Depends entirely on your goal.
Okay, so we've seen lumps in code, lumps in insurance fraud, revealing hidden stuff, but the source goes further, right, into history.
Yeah, this is where it gets, let's say, more speculative. The source talks about what it calls lumpy woo.
Lumpy. Okay, define that one.
It's basically applying the lumpy data idea to history itself, looking for significant anomalies, hidden patterns, or events in the historical record that just don't seem to fit the standard narrative.
Like what, for instance?
Well, as an example of the kind of thinking, not necessarily something the source definitively proves, but it discusses alternative readings of history, like interpretations suggesting the Christ episode might have actually happened much later, maybe closer to 1300 AD.
Whoa, okay, that would change things.
Massively. It would mean we're not really in 2022 or whenever, but maybe more like the year 892. Again, that's presented as an example of radically rethinking timelines based on perceived anomalies.
So it's about questioning the very foundation based on these potential lumps.
Exactly. The value isn't necessarily in proving that specific alternative timeline, but in using the lumpy data mindset to even ask those kinds of radical questions about how we interpret the past.
Okay. What's a more concrete historical lump the source focuses on?
A big one is this idea that some kind of bug, as the source puts it, attacked North America over maybe 70 or 80 years.
A bug, like a disease. Or,
It's a bit metaphorical, I think. The result was that almost all major U.S. cities burned down during that period.
wait, all major cities burned down?
Well, maybe not literally all, but a surprising number of them experienced massive, devastating fires. And the source argues this is not something that's widely taught or understood as a connected phenomenon.
Okay, that definitely sounds like a potential lump in the standard history lesson.
Right. It makes you pause.
But hang on, how do we distinguish a real lump from just normal patterns? Like, when electricity was new, weren't there lots of accidents and fires as people figured it out?
That's a great point. And the source acknowledges that. Expected patterns aren't lumps.
Or like when crypto first appeared, lots of people lost Bitcoin because the tech was new and confusing.
Exactly. Those are vulnerabilities, maybe, but they're predictable consequences of introducing something new. Human adaptation, learning curve, stuff like that. That's not what the source means by lumpy areas in data.
So what makes the city fires different, according to the source? Why are they a lump?
It's the scale, the repetition across multiple major cities, and the specific time period, according to the source. We're talking about huge fires devastating large parts of major U.S. cities.
Like which ones?
Well, New York had big fires in the 1830s, 1840s. Then you have the really famous ones like the Great Chicago Fire in 1871, Seattle's massive fire in 1889.
Oh, yeah, I know those names, but I never really thought of them as a pattern.
And that's the source's point. It highlights not just the destruction, but also the incredibly rapid and sort of coordinated rebuilding that happened after these fires. That whole sequence, widespread destruction, then unusually fast rebuilding, is presented as the significant lump.
What was so unusual about the rebuilding? Cities always rebuild after disasters, don't they?
Yes, but the source emphasizes the speed and scale here. Take Seattle again. The source says 50 to 100 blocks just wiped out in 1889.
Wow.
It was essentially rebuilt in about 2 years, even though supposedly the capacity to make that many bricks, for example, wasn't readily available locally.
So where did the resources come from? How did it happen so fast?
That's the question the lump raises. And not just rebuilt, but often rebuilt differently. New companies emerged, dominated whole regions. The fires fundamentally changed the economic, social, even architectural landscape.
Okay, that does sound different from just a single accidental fire. The source contrasts this with, say, a fire in Paris.
Yeah, apparently there was a fire in Paris around 1900, but it was more contained. A single event didn't spread citywide in the same way. It lacked that repetitive, widespread pattern seen in the U.S. cities, followed by that specific kind of rapid, transformative rebuilding.
It's those inconsistencies, the things that don't quite line up that make it lumpy.
Exactly. And these patterns of major U.S. city fires seem to largely stop around 1912, according to the source.
And the source has a theory about why this happened.
It hypothesizes these events might have been used, perhaps deliberately, to destroy records, obscure the history of what existed before these fires, basically making it harder for us now to understand the pre-fire cities and society.
Wow, that's a big claim. Does it mention who might have been behind it?
It touches on rumors, acknowledges them as rumors, about Freemason involvement. Whispers from the 1880s up to around 1904 suggesting the fires were arranged.
Okay, rumors are just rumors, but it adds to the lumpy picture.
It does. And the source brings up other examples of potential historical scrubbing, like alleged actions by the Smithsonian.
What about the Smithsonian?
Claims that they acquired and then destroyed anomalously large human bones found in California, even supposedly paying people to haul them offshore and dump them in the ocean.
Giant bones. Seriously.
The source presents accounts mentioning thousands of journal entries from people supposedly paid to dump these heavy sacks that felt like giant bones. It argues these accounts are significant anomalies themselves, lumpy data that shouldn't be easily dismissed.
Okay, so the source is saying don't just ignore these weird stories, investigate them as potential lumps.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it even suggests you can kind of hunt for these historical lumps yourself
How?
using search engines. Try searching for things like Great City Name Fire of, and look for results that specifically mention multiple blocks being destroyed. See if you can spot that pattern.
Interesting. Okay, so wrapping this part up, what's the big takeaway here? The power of lumpy data.
I think it's immense, really. Whether you're finding fraud in insurance data or maybe uncovering obscured historical events, paying attention to the anomalies, the lumps, the things that make you go, hang on, things just don't happen that way, that can totally change how you understand something.
It's a different way of looking at information.
Definitely. It's about spotting the breaks in the pattern.
Now, this idea of lumpy woo, these historical anomalies, the source doesn't just leave it in the past, does it?
No, it actually suggests these same methods, this way of looking for lumps, might be relevant for the future, specifically for economic shifts.
Oh, how so?
The source predicts, and remember, this is the source's prediction, that we're going to see significant lumps appearing in the economy in the coming months. It even names January, February, March as a period to watch.
Okay, economic lumps. What kind of lumps are we talking about? Just market weirdness?
It connects it to something broader. The source posits this idea that mental structures that seek to control humanity will be losing their grip in their minds.
Wow. Okay, it's quite a statement.
It is. And it goes on to suggest that governments might try to stifle this religious feeling. It uses that term, but that these efforts will fail and will end very badly for government.
A rising religious feeling connected to economic lumps. That's a lot to unpack.
It's definitely provocative. The source builds on that, claiming governments will become the enemy of the rising religious feeling and ultimately will fall.
Fall because of this shift.
That's the source's claim, that the structure of their control will be exposed and destroyed. It's presenting a potential future scenario identified in its view by applying this lumpy data thinking to current trends.
So the idea is that just like lumps revealed hidden fraud or maybe hidden history, future lumps might signal massive societal or economic shifts, even governmental changes.
That seems to be the implication drawn by the source, yes, using lumps as predictive indicators, not just historical or forensic ones.
Okay, that's certainly a thought-provoking place to end up. So for you listening, maybe the challenge is to adopt this lumpy data mindset yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Start looking for those inconsistencies in the information you see every day.
The unexpected patterns, the things that make you pause and think, wait a minute, that doesn't quite add up, or things just don't happen that way.
Exactly. Because those could be the clues, the lumps, that lead you to a much deeper understanding, or maybe reveal something hidden.
So maybe reflect on that. What historical things have you heard about that seemed lumpy? Or even things happening now? Events or trends that challenge the common story?
It's a really fascinating lens to view the world through, isn't it? Looking for the lumps.